day for producer Pete to be on the comms here because, he's listening intently. Here's the notable running backs on a bye for week 14. And these are big ones. Joe Mixon, sorry, Jay. Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Brian Robinson, who had a really good week, Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams, and even, obviously this includes the Broncos' backup running backs as well. So a lot of big names here, Matthew.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that you're dealing with some injuries as well, right? You mentioned J.K. Dobbins. You don't feel good about any of the Chargers running backs here, and so you don't feel good about the Raiders running back situation.
Breece Hall is banged up.
Breece Hall is banged up as well. So it is an ugly, ugly week as well. And Jay, I want to take a moment here just to talk about you because I think you can really help the mindset of the fantasy football manager for people out there in leagues. I'd like to just sort of know for you, Jay, what's the mindset of a fantasy manager who drafted Chris McCaffrey?
Oh my gosh!
And then did the smart thing, and then took the precaution in the preseason of drafting his backup Jordan Mason. Not everyone was able to do that. Jordan Mason, wasn't rostered by every single Chris McCaffrey manager as well, right? And you wisely avoided Elijah Mitchell. But here you sit on the precipice of the playoffs, and you don't have Chris McCaffrey or Jordan Mason, and Isaac Guerendo is a free agent in a league in where there are no free agents.
Yes.
How are you feeling today?
You have dollars, though.
I do have a lot of dollars to spend. Well, two things. One, I'm not sure what's going on with this next situation.
Yeah,
what are we in Athens?
Maybe.
Is this the European summer? What the hell's going on here?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I got to talk to Stephanie in wardrobe.
That's the first thing.
But
the second thing.
I like that you were distracted.
So here's the thing with Guerendo.
Yeah.
So I think it was Ian Hardert who tweeted you drafted Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason. You didn't think to draft Isaac Guerendo as well. You're an idiot. Well, here's the thing.
The backup of the backup. You should have drafted the backup of the backup.
He was on my team at one point. I had all three of them on my roster, and then McCaffrey comes back. It's like, oh great, I can drop Isaac Guerendo, and now I'm gonna have to spend all my fab to get him. Here's the honorable thing. You guys should just let me pick him up. You should let me pick him up.
We're going to.
I will instead of Pete getting him.
I'm gonna. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm absolutely put in a $0 bid. Don't worry about it. I'm making this decree. No one in the league make a bid on Guerendo. He's yours for free.
Okay.
Go ahead. Put in a $0 bid. He's yours. I promise you. Don't worry.
Do I have the most fab of anyone? I might just be able to be in control of this situation.
We'll find out as you look that up. In case you missed this news, Chris McCaffrey, I think it's a torn PCL, right?
Yeah, it's a PCL injury that they're saying might not need surgery. But the bottom line is
he's done for the year.
Irrelevant in fantasy right now.
He's officially placed on IR. It's a 6-week recovery time. We are not going to see Chris McCaffrey in the regular season for fantasy football again this year. If you are in a redraft league, you are welcome to drop him. Jordan Mason also gets placed on IR. He's going to be out for at least the minimum of 4 games. And so you sort of sit there and you do the math. Week 14, week 15, week 16, week 17. Maybe he comes back in week 18. But if you play in a league where the playoffs are in week 18, are you really going to trust Jordan Mason in a game that probably isn't going to matter to the 49ers in his first game back? I think it's unlikely that we see Jordan Mason do anything in fantasy this year as well. Yep. And it does look like you'll see some Patrick Taylor for the 49ers as well, and they might sign another body. But ultimately, it looks like the starting running back for the Niners this week will be Isaac Guerendo, and he's available in a ton of leagues out there, 92% of Yahoo leagues, including our league, because Jay dropped the backup of his backup. And 3 different games this year, guys, with double-digit offensive snaps, at least 10 offensive snaps. And he's averaging over 12 fantasy points per game. He's averaging almost 6 yards per carry this season. All right, and over the last 4 weeks, he plays Chicago this week. Over the last 4 weeks, Bears allowing over 128 rushing yards per game, giving up almost 5 yards per carry to running backs as well. Isaac Guerendo is the number 1 pickup this week as well. And I will say this. It's week 14. A lot of people out there in Connor's situation. You have to win or your season is over. A lot of people out there in the situation of Jay, where you had McCaffrey and or Jordan Mason, you don't have Guerendo. I am spending all of my. You don't have to. You're safe. I promise you.
I just
Jay,
put in a $79 bid.
No,
Isaac Guerendo, so
fine.
it's done. He's my player now.
No, it's fine. You $0. Save your $79. But everyone else, I would blow the budget on Isaac Guerendo.
I think he's going to spend everything, right?
I think you have to spend everything.
Yeah,
I just don't know that you're going. I don't know that there's at this point of the season. I don't know that there's going to be another player that becomes available that has the potential impact of Guerendo that's available, that's as widely available as him.
Yeah. Well, last night after I saw the Jordan Mason news, which that one snuck by me. I didn't realize that was the thing, and then all of a sudden I see Jordan Mason's done and it's on IR as well. All right, great.
It was a surprise.
And so in a fit of fury, I was just like, all right, how much fab do I have? I'm just going to spend it all of it, every single dollar. $83 on Isaac Guerendo. Turns out no one has more than $78, so I've revised that bid down to $79. But I think you're not going to get any better than this. He's the starting running back on the 49ers. They're still going to be playing to win for the time being. So I agree. Blow the budget, just as I did.
Wisely. He's
Wisely.
yours.
You know what's upsetting?
The Guerendo is
if
yours.
Jay had the day off, he wouldn't have paid attention. He'd have been making moves in our basketball league, and Guerendo would have gone through for like $5 or $6.
Like Brandon Pajemski.
Yeah, exactly.
Alas. Guerendo is mine.
Saved. All right, our next running back here, and things are shallow right now, let's be real. But Jonathan Brooks, he's 51% available, so he just meets our threshold here. He's got the Eagles, of course, which is a tough matchup, Matthew, but the most important thing is he did get 9 touches. This is somebody that started out the year on IR, the talented rookie. They're working him in this Panthers offense.
Played only 14 snaps, but touched the ball 9 times, as you mentioned, Connor, on those 14 snaps. Got 3 targets. They were using him in the passing game. Also, 2 goal-to-go rushing attempts as somebody who has Chuba Hubbard and got killed in a guillotine league because, we were down to the final 5, and Hubbard, with his under 3 fantasy points, just a brutal game from Hubbard against the Buccaneers. Remember, Hubbard also lost that fumble in overtime. It was one of the reasons why that the Buccaneers were able to get that game-winning field goal. And so, look, Hubbard got paid, and he's been so good all year long, but clearly they want to get Jonathan Brooks more involved. His usage from last week increased from the week before. You have to expect it gets up even more. Don't love the matchup against Philadelphia, and I'm still going to have Hubbard ranked over Brooks this week, but Brooks is obviously going to have a role in this offense, and talented player who has a role. And at this stage of the season, with 6 teams on a bye, that's enough. Just having a pulse.
Yeah, and the thing is that the Panthers are 12-point dogs in this game. So the answer here between these two guys may come down to just who is going to be the PPR scam artist as they're playing catch-up mode in the second half. I think that might be Jonathan Brooks.
That's why they drafted him.
Yeah.
I mean, be a pass-catching back, get him in space, use his explosiveness. The fact he played 14 snaps, but he had 3 targets, and he caught all 3 of them.
Yeah.
You get a little bit more on the plate. Say the snaps go from 14 to, God, can we get 20 out of you? And you do catch 5 passes
20,
in a chasing point script. Then he's viable in a week where everybody's really desperate at this position right now. So, all right, guys, here's the must-roster insurance.
And by the way, you could see that increasing. Again, we're also looking towards the fantasy playoffs as well. And, there's a chance that the Panthers just go with a full youth movement. It does still – paying Hubbard still is one of the weird – again, he's been great, and you want to reward guys who've been great, but it does feel like just a weird misallocation of resources that you use Brooks was a second-rounder, right?
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
Yeah. But to be fair, it wasn't as bad as the Falcons what they did with their allocation of resources at the quarterback position. But yeah, just a little strange one that went under the radar. Yeah. But only thing that
By the way, maybe not, because Kirk Cousins has been brutal. People are calling for Michael Penix to start, and I think if Cousins has another bad game, I think that's a real conversation. Because if you look at what Kirk Cousins has done in games in which he's not playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's been bad.
Yeah.
The eye test, physically, there's nothing.
He just can't move. He feels like he can't step into these throws.
Right, and you see the ball just kind of float.
Yeah.
When Penix goes, I can't imagine what it looks like in practice. When Penix throws a deep out and then Cousins throws a deep out, it's like a Nerf ball compared to a pea shooter. It's crazy.
Now he gets Brian Flores' defense, so it's not.
They're not going to throw Penix to the Wolves like that.
So it could end badly.
But
all right.
At any rate,
here's the must-roster insurance running backs. That top one becomes much more interesting this week, Matthew, as Breece Hall is dealing with a knee injury. His snap count was obviously down last week in Seattle. So Braylon Allen, 68% out there. There's a world where Braylon Allen is starting during the fantasy playoffs. Zach Charbonnet scored the touchdown last week against the Jets.
Oh, I'm aware.
Yeah. Did that hurt?
Super bit. Well, it's just
I know
we had Ken.
Yes.
I heard America because we had hit 3 legs of our touchdown parlay bet, And Ken Walker should have gotten that touchdown, but instead they give it to stupid Zach Charbonnet.
And the Jets actually had like 8 goal line stand plays for the first time
For
in
the
their
first
entire
time all
season.
year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tough betting year for Matthew with the Seahawks between Tyler Lockett gate.
Yes.
Our various losing bets on JSN. We've had a good betting year, but JSN has really screwed us across the board.
Yeah,
until
I
finally
gotta
breaking
avoid
down
the
now.
Seahawks. I've been good with pretty much every other team.
Tyler Algier.
The Niners have effed me a
screwed
couple
it.
of times as well with the injuries to Mason and McCaffrey.
Tajay Spears, Ray Davis, Blake Corum, who's getting a little bit more work now for the Rams, Roshan Johnson, Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Wright, who's taken on a larger role as Raheem Mostert started to go down, although that one's a little bit more tricky, and Trey Benson.
I will also, by the way, again, James Conner has missed time pretty much every year of his career. Hasn't yet this season.
Right.
So Trey Benson's really interesting to me just because if you look at the Cardinals' upcoming playoff schedule, it's ridiculous. It's really nice. You got the Panthers in there. They got the Patriots as well.
Seahawks aren't scary.
Yeah, I mean, so just there's a scenario, again, you never root for injury. You don't even want to predict injury, but there's a scenario where James Conner could get banged up and Benson ends up helping in your playoffs in a significant way down the stretch. But I think more importantly than this is, we've talked about this a lot, and with 6 teams on a bye, you may not have this luxury because you may be in a situation like, I don't know, Connor, where you desperately have to win this week or your season's over. No big deal. I mean, you and I are playing next. You and I are playing in week 15. Right now, Jay and I are just figuring out what our seating is. You know, it's just we're just rearranging the deck chairs. You're like
Bills and Chiefs over here, Colts over there.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's very disrespectful. I have a winning record.
Anyway,
This will be remembered.
Colts-ish. But anyway, should we call him Anthony Richardson over here?
CR5.
I think our third host, Samara, would prefer that title.
Fair.
Mr. Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. But all I was going to say is that I think you may not have this luxury this week to just stock up on backup running backs, but I do think it is important. And you're right. I don't know what's going on with this one collar. This one, I got to talk to Stephanie.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It's I don't know. It's just whatever.
Vacation in Milan.
Yeah, just a little bit. Hey, what's going on? Get you a drink?
Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
Detonate this
I'm the
ISO.
divorced dad at the bar. What's going on? Hey, who's ready to party?
Luigi meets Borat meets
Yeah, exactly.
single man.
It's scary. It's very scary. My poor wife. You don't understand how lucky I am and how unfortunate my wife's life is. Anyway, look, back to backup running backs. All I'm saying here is that what you want is to protect what you have. Because if you are going into the playoffs, if you are similar to Jay and myself, and you know what you have, right? You're sure to play in the postseason. You obviously have a pretty good team if you're heading into the postseason, and so you just want to kind of make sure you protect that production. We have too short a season here to be like, oh, I'll just take a flyer on Trey Benson and hope that James Conner gets hurt, right? I would much rather take Trey Benson if I have James Conner, or Blake Corum if I have Kyron Williams, on, Ray Davis if I have James Cook, just because you want to make sure you lock in that production. If you have an extra roster spot, then sure, take a flyer on one of these backup running backs. But I feel like the season's getting shorter, and the chances of one of those guys popping in a way that like Guerendo is likely to is small. And so you'd much rather just be rest assured that, hey, your team is what it is at this point, and I just want to, ride who got me there.
Yeah, I think the thing is too is like you're thinking about purely who is going to be in my starting lineup in the playoffs. It's like, what's the point of picking up like Tyler Lockett? Like Tyler Lockett's probably just not going to be. He's not going to feature.
Yeah.
Like if you're starting Tyler Lockett, you're probably screwed anyway. So just try and fortify strength and go for upside.
Yeah, and by the way, once you get past and start looking ahead to the playoffs in terms of what are the weeks, and like to your point, like if I've got Tyler Lockett on my team, like Tyler Lockett's never starting for me in the playoffs. Yeah. And if I get so many injuries during the playoffs that I need to start Tyler Lockett, he or similar production will be available on the waiver wire. So get rid of those guys. You don't need 2 kickers, right? You don't need 2 defenses. You don't need 2 tight ends. Sort of lock in your starting lineup and go from there. And then your bench is literally just about like if something happens to one of my guys, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully, respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.